Welcome to Conscious Conversation. My question for today is, does science and spirituality correlate?
Ah, science and spirituality. Well, I can say all the science has a sense of spirituality, and all the spirituality also has a sense of science. Now, sometimes what happens is science believes in something very rigid, something extremely factual, something which is in the dimension of human eye, something which is in the dimension of human intellect. Spirituality goes one step more, where it starts saying there is much more to human consciousness. It's not only what we see or what we perceive, it's not only what we are exactly living, but there is also much more than that. And if you know that, you can live what you're currently living in this particular dimensions of your vision, can live blissfully and with more consciousness. So, spirituality and science, yes, they correlate. Uh, every spiritual thing or every uh, spiritual, I don't say rules because rules does not exist in spirituality, but anything which is said by spirituality has a certain amount of science behind it. Now, even science, if we understand the true sense of science, science is basically completely based on assumptions. You assume something, you go on, prove it, it becomes science. Correct? That's what it is. You sometimes say, now let us backdate. There were certain amount of people who believed that Earth was flat until it was proven. Because we could see it is flat in front of us, that means it is flat. That was the dimension. Now people thought, no, now I have to prove the real shape of Earth. So they might have assumed hell lot of shapes, but somebody went to the space, they saw it visually, and they proved it with photographs that Earth is round. That means somebody might have assumed that the shape of the Earth is not flat.
Right.
That's when the whole curiosity of finding the real shape has happened. So, spirituality also works on the same principle, but it says everybody has their own journey, everybody has their own science to themselves. The only thing in spirituality is to elevate your sense of consciousness, your sense of living this life more blissfully, nothing else. So, basically, you can say spirituality is one step higher than science, it is a science in itself. Science is still growing. We are thinking, we are assuming, we are then proving the fact, then it ought to be there. Spirituality says this exists. There is no need of proof to it because it is your experience. If you have anything in your experience, you don't need to prove it to anybody because you know that is the truth.
Right.
It's same thing with spirituality. If it is in your experience, if you're conscious enough about the spiritual dimension, it is for you. You don't have to go, bang your head on someone's shoulder saying, no, you believe this, no, you believe that. No. If it will come in his or her experience, that will be the truth to him.
Right.
That will be spiritual to him.
Right.
Science wants everybody to believe. Now, if I want to believe that Earth is flat, I will be called a fool.
Right.
But if I say that no, Earth is round, yet internally I believe Earth is flat, that means I'm fooling myself also.
Right.
Yet I am fooling all others. That means it's a fool game. So that is what it is. Whereas spirituality says you don't even have to say anything to others.
Right.
You don't have to even convince others, nor you have to convince yourself. This is what the ultimate truth is. And if you experience it, come to the spiritual dimension. Whereas science does not work on experience, it works on evidence.
Right.
It works if you say something, you prove it. If I tell you, if you are hungry tomorrow, obviously tomorrow you'll be hungry if you haven't had any lunch, dinner. If I say you prove me that you are hungry, then only I will feed you. What will you do? What will you do? You will say, no, I am feeling hungry. I am feeling hungry. I would say, you prove me you are hungry, then only I will give you food. This is what science is.
Right.
Whereas hunger is your experience. That is what spirituality is. that I am hungry, it is my experience.
Right.
That is spiritual to me. No matter whether the other person knows that I am hungry or not, doesn't matter to me. I know that I am hungry, I have to have food, I will have food. Same thing, I know that spiritual dimension exists, I have experienced that dimension, that's what I am. Now, if you understand this, that science has a lot of research people,
Yes.
okay, where they got to promote certain things. They say, uh, you have certain people who are specialized in certain subjects in scientific research. They assume something and they go on and to prove it, research on it and then prove it. So basically they know the ultimate solution, they know what they want, and they are proving the fact to the whole public.
Right.
Same way spirituality, there are hundreds, thousands and different number of what you say, gurus,
Yes.
who tell you there is an experience called spiritual dimension. There is a dimension which is beyond your life. I will help you experience it.
Right.
If a guru, any spiritual guru, is not somebody who would hold your hand and take it around and walk, he is not here to prove anything. He doesn't say this dimension exists, you have to believe me. No, then he is not a successful guru. A guru would be only a person if he goes to a person and he says, I would let you experience a dimension which is beyond the visible physical dimension and the human dimension. If you experience it, that means the guru is successful. That's how it works. So spirituality and science, as I said, there is a lot of science in all the spirituality, and there is some spirituality in every science. So yes, they are correlated, but as I said, spirituality is one step higher. You don't have to prove anything. It's your experience. Science says you have to prove it. That's when it becomes science. So you can say science is spirituality, but spirituality hasn't become science yet, because nobody has proved it, and you don't have a need to prove it. If you prove it, it becomes again corrupted, because each one's spiritual experience is different. No two people's spiritual experience will be same, because it's their own experience, to their own consciousness and beyond, their own life, their own experience. That's how spirituality and science are.
Right. So, coming down to a very personal point right now, how we know that science, we need to prove things, right? There is a very specific time that you need to prove it. That is when your results will come, and that is how people will understand that this is the fact, right? Now, coming down to the personal being, well, I have noticed we all do it. Everybody practices this, that we need to prove. There is always a need to prove in a personal, how do you say, personal lifestyle or anything, be it an argument or be it something you've done, anything or everything. So do you think that proving a point in our regular lives is that important, or the other person that we are trying to explain our experience to should understand it at the face value?
See, first of all, when a certain person goes and says, I need to prove something, he or she should first question themselves why. And you won't have an answer to that. If you question yourself that why do you have to prove certain things, automatically internally you don't have an answer to that. Why do you have to prove anything to him? It's only because I want the other person to say yes to me, to nod his head to me like a bull or a cow. That's how you go and say. So humanly it is not possible, because the other person also does the same thing to you.
Right.
He would want him to be agreed by you. You would want you to be agreed by him. And that game keep on going on. Everybody is just shaking their head doing nothing. Whereas you be still and you think this is my experience and I have got to the fullest of it. I have to go to the fullest of it. Automatically you would start radiating knowledge. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You don't have to call upon them and say, oh, listen, I have done this. You don't have to do that. Automatically, when you innerly experience the knowledge of what you have got, or even See, you don't have to prove anything.
Right.
Even if you want to tell your experience out, you have to convey it. If, for example, let me take an example of this. If I take Gautam Buddha,
Right.
he has got enlightenment under a Bodhi tree. He has narrated the story to everybody. He did not find a need to prove it. He did not say, come sit with me under the Bodhi tree, you will also experience it, then you believe me. He has radiated his knowledge. He has said, this is what my experience is. And now I will be telling you certain aspects of life which you can take. If you experience in your life, you receive it. Otherwise, you leave it go. I don't have anything to do with you. If you experience something, come along with me. If you don't experience anything, you're free to go. If he would have stuck into this loop of proving that he has been enlightened under that tree, the whole life of Gautam Buddha would have gone that way.
Right.
Just proving the fact that I have got enlightenment under the tree. Nobody would have believed him.
Right.
Because it's not in their experience, nor did he care to prove it. He said, this is my experience. Now I am telling you certain aspects of life. If you experience it, come along with me. He has just stated. He did not care beyond that. The only problem comes when you state certain aspect and you want everybody around you to say yes to that.
Right.
That's when the problem happens. But if you want to really convey your experience, just convey and go. You have done your job of conveying your experience. How the other person takes, it's their headache. Whether he takes it or whether he himself. See, again the things comes. If you go on to prove the point, you give a lead to the other person to pull your leg back.
Right.
You don't have to do that. Why do you want to bloody prove your point every time? You have done something, it's in your experience, keep it that way.
Right.
That gives you much more bliss than proving the point. Because if you go and prove the point, you are under that whole impression of people judging you, you judging others, them judging you, them judging the situation, and then sometimes grudges happen. People go and take, how can he say that?
Right.
How does he want me to believe him? Who is he? Am I a small person? He's a bigger person. Then it'll be small thing. It'll go on to a big fire, wildfire.
Right.
So just if you have experienced something, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. If you want to convey, state it, leave it. Don't think beyond it.
Right.
That should be the principle. If you do that, your life will be blissful. The other person's life will also be blissful because he would understand what he has to understand. He would take what he has to take. If he has to agree with you, he will agree in himself. If you have to disagree, he will disagree in himself. If you go and say the point, whatever I have said, yes, no, say yes, no, agreed, no, he would say no.
Right.
Because that's what it is. Whereas if you say, this is my point, thank you. That person, if he has to agree, he will agree. If he has to disagree, he will disagree in himself. You don't have to go and again bang your head on his shoulder.
All right. Thank you so much for watching Conscious Conversation. Please do like and subscribe our videos. If you have any other questions, you're always welcome to share your questions with us. Thank you.